see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole fam.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Every seed's growth is accompanied by destruction. Each birth of living flesh is succeeded by death, and the calculated orbits of the deities in the heavens renew all decay. Hermetica, Libellus III. 4. Spiritual practices are based on a liturgy that expresses cosmology, philosophy, and metaphysical objectives. Egypt's spiritual tradition meticulously documented numerous prayers, invocations, and litanies for application in temples and tombs. Alongside these writings, the rubrics elucidate the application of the liturgy. Throughout ancient Egypt's extensive history, liturgical practices seldom underwent modification. They were esteemed for their truthfulness, accuracy, and influence, as the ritualistic practices conducted in temples and tombs were purported to originate from ancient times. This belief posits that the walls of each temple document the liturgies, daily and seasonal festivals, and the historical origins or founding events of each specific Neter's sanctuary. At Edfu, the illustrious Imhotep, a wise man and healer of Dynasty III, officiated the temple's founding ceremony. The Neteru performed a daily morning litany to inaugurate the temple, inscribed in the Hall of Appearances. Calendars from Karnak, Esna, and Abydos document sacred days for observance. The timing, location, and actions responsible for the spiritual upkeep of the temple dictated its operations over the centuries. The solar calendar and subsequent liturgy can establish an annual cycle of 12 ceremonies for you. Heliopolis's systematic solar cosmogony serves as the foundation for these monthly observances. Each Neter comprises 12 rites, kesu, embodying the ancient temple's established protocol. Thus, they assist in cultivating a deliberate and dynamic interface among the human, divine, and natural domains. All Iru ceremonies incorporate the customary kesu rites. Furthermore, each ceremony incorporates a festival to venerate the seasonal Neter, Hebu. The contemporary temple may customize these observances to suit the occasion, depending on time and resources. It is feasible to expound on the Iru ceremonies if they coincide with multiple cosmic events, such as a new moon aligning with the sun's transition into a new zodiac sign. Alongside the standard offerings and activities for the temple community, special observances may encompass the creation of temple oil and amulets, or a communal meal instead of the traditional offerings. Hymn of Hesi. The commencement of each ceremony is characterized by a preliminary salutation that invokes the divine essence and representation of the Neter. Alongside the Hesi, hymn, temple instruments like drums and sistras enhance the ritual ambiance of the ceremony and signal its sacred significance to the participants. Temples and tombs house hymns, while specific hymns dedicated to the Neteru were inscribed on papyrus rolls encasing mummies, enabling the deceased to perpetuate the recitation of divine attributes in the afterlife. The Hiner, a hymnodi or chanter, frequently performed hymns in the divine house as a procession neared the sanctuary before ceremonies. The contemporary temple should incorporate a minimum of one chanter to officiate the ceremony's opening. The Litany of Vehem. In ancient Egypt, sound alchemy emerged from the understanding of the occult principle that sacred names encapsulate a being's essence, and that possessing these names grants access to divine powers. Both the temple and the tomb serve as litanies to the Neteru. Some are extensive, enumerating the revered forms that recognize the Neteru, while others are concise yet impactful. We incorporate holy names, images, and phrases linked to the deity, which, when articulated collectively, function as potent invocations. It is feasible to incorporate certain divinity names in the litany, wehem, repeating, which should be articulated with the understanding that the name holds power. The litany signifies the commencement of a temple ceremony and directs the Neter's focus to the occasion. The litany is conventionally recited by the Heb, keeper of the book, although other participants are encouraged to join, particularly under the Neter's oversight. The Heb can recite the litany with participants responding, similar to ceremonies like Heru and Anpu. Ancient liturgies dictate that each utterance of a deity's name necessitates placing a ball of incense in the temple brazier. In a restricted or poorly ventilated area, the invocation is excessively prolonged for this technique to be appropriate. However, the litany is an ideal moment to commence censing the temple. Anointings of Gasu. Individuals undergo purification before a significant ceremony through Gasu the extended anointing. The ceremony for Gasu Nej, brief anointing, typically uses only temple oil. All participants acknowledge the blessing as a sacred act of unity. Anointing rites are customarily performed for individuals assuming office, those who have passed away, and during significant life transitions such as childbirth, baptism, and death. Gasu. The symbolism of anointing is evident. The application of the sacred substance to a specific body area activates psychic centers or senses. Furthermore, the oil protects the anointed. The Uabe, asperger, responsible for purifying all items introduced into the ceremonial setting, conducts the anointing. Ancient Egyptians adorned their heads with waxed perfume cones that gradually warmed and melted, releasing a fragrant aroma. This ritual also involves applying temple oil to the forehead. The Uab invokes the deity's images with his left hand while grasping the oil flask with his right hand. Antiquity recommended applying with the little finger in a circular manner. Excessive oil application can lead to drippage in the eyes, irritating each participant. We anoint all participants in the ceremony, but we have not yet decided whether to summon guests before the event. The reflection on Sekha. Participants have now arrived at the juncture of approaching the deity. Meditation offers a chance to cultivate intention before taking this step. Invoking the divine and accessing the celestial domain requires bravery. During the contemplation rite, Sekha, participants meditate on Neter's distinct qualities and cultivate an individual connection. Ancient civilizations articulated the embodiment of the deity's tangible form through sacred dance, and the monuments of Egypt are replete with illustrations of these occurrences. The artistic movement, gestures, and postures communicated to the audience the attributes of the divine entity. In Egypt, this art continues to function as a spiritual practice, transforming the performers and the spectators through the deity's power. The Sufi tradition and expressive dance are significant aspects of Egypt's distinctive methods for reflecting on divine principles. Consequently, we revive ancient traditions by incorporating sacred dance into this ceremonial segment. The Mer, overseer, responsible for maintaining the temple's possessions, will conduct this rite. She may reveal the depiction of the Neter, exhibit an illustration or photograph of the goddess's temple in Egypt, or showcase symbolic artifacts of her veneration, such as her plant, stone, or textile. Subsequently, she articulates the ancient invocation to the Neter, known as the Hekau, which elucidates the Neter's capabilities. Invocation of Hekaut. When we invoke the divine, we must awaken and regenerate ourselves. The invocation, Hekaut, enacts the birth of a deity by articulating the divine names to summon its presence into the sacred space. During the invocation, the deity is assured that the environment has been sufficiently prepared and sanctified, serving as a fertile womb for the emergence of life. The theurgist must send forth your voice to commence the rite of invocation. Likewise, any hesitation will impede the union of the divinity with the temple. Fear, distrust, or a lack of reverence obstruct the manifestation of the divine. Neteru, God's incarnation, conducts the invocation, which is nearest to the sanctuary where divinity manifests. Invocations, however, entail significantly more than merely summoning the deity. Neteru was in charge of drawing attention to the divine presence in the area. He had special wands and ritual staffs and knew for a long time how to direct subtle energies to certain parts of the temple. Consequently, the Neteru is a conduit and energy source for manifestation. The Neteru serves as a conduit for divine forces and must exhibit detachment to fulfill this role. A meditation titled Mao Di. Rituals represent the apex of Egyptian spiritual practice. The collective focus during the ceremony generates a powerful concentration of energy capable of profoundly transforming participants. An adept theurgist with remarkable endurance must execute this to expel unwelcome influences. Some individuals may experience surprise due to unpreparedness for the mental or emotional stimulation elicited by the ceremony, fear from a lack of instruction, and mistrust from the inexperienced. Monitor Sao practitioners and document any anomalies, including lights and sounds. The Hekaut receives these events after the ceremony and conveys their significance to the recipients. During this segment of the ceremony, the Hekaut, magician or theurgist, must conduct the proceedings with deliberation and dynamism. Specific phenomena frequently manifest in ritual contexts. The aroma, auditory elements, ritualistic recitations, and the event's timing establish distinctive circumstances. The objective of a ceremony is to facilitate divine manifestation. It should not be unexpected if this transpires. Meditation is a way to receive divine energy, and it's like a holy image shows up in a place and gives its energy to the people who do it. Hekaut directed and timed the meditation, Mao. Participants can either recite the script during a guided meditation or choose silence, which is their preferred option. The duration of this rite is discretionary. It may be concluded by playing background music, increasing the illumination, or igniting a new incense stick in the brazier. Presentation of Hotep. The Neteru receives offerings and provisions in the sacred abode. Most ancient civilizations could distribute their wealth, and the offering served as both a recognition of the divine presence and an expression of gratitude. A communal existence characterized Egypt, the necessity to sustain it, and interdependence among diverse social groups. Consequently, there was significant confidence and reciprocal support during the construction of the pyramids. These endeavors were undoubtedly highly successful despite significant challenges. Likewise, the rite of offering, Hotep, entails presenting all we cherish to the Neteru, anticipating its replenishment by divine forces through nature. In this ritual, the Satem, steward, provides nourishment, offerings to the temple, and items for divine consecration. The reversion of offerings, communion, by Jefao. This represents the culmination of the participants' ceremonial efforts to disseminate divine benefits. An ancient ritual called Wajeb Hotep Neteru, meaning reversion of offerings, involved the deity returning honors given in an alternate form. After temple ceremonies, the deity typically redistributed offerings to temple staff, and in numerous instances, to external guests and visitors. People who took part in this ritual believed that the gods absorbed ka, which is the essence of food and other offerings, and changed them when they interacted with them. The opportunity to participate in this transformation, jefao, is exceptional. Food is discouraged for aesthetic purposes in the ceremonial setting. However, the return of offerings imparts a crucial sense of grounding to the participants. A respite from the emotional and intellectual exigencies of the ritual is essential at this juncture in the temple ceremony. The Hem-Ka, spiritual servant, conducts a communion ritual to distribute the offerings. Historically, the priestess served as a liaison between the temple community and external society, and between the living and the deceased. She conducted the family's regular offering ceremonies at the tomb, the program for the temple dedication. This ceremony segment underscores the temple's and its participants' intended role as conduits for the divine. By assigning the cardinal directions and elements to the Mesen Het Neta, the Hekau strengthens the temple's foundational structure. These rituals replenish the components and stations with the Neta's energies, fortifying the temple's etheric framework. Furthermore, this is the moment to reveal or excavate a founding stone, also known as a ben-ben or symbolic mound, if it exists. The dedication, menu, is executed by the Ma, the seer, who employs spiritual insight and unwavering dedication to engage with the divine. The proclamation of Pert Keru Neta. Priests of ancient temples imparted knowledge and offered divination as a service of the divine house. In Egypt, diverse methods realized astrological predictions, including scrying with water in silver and obsidian containers, dream analysis, and omen assessment. Per Keru Neter, meaning voice offering of the god, was a traditional method of divination that conveyed insights and messages from the Neter to guide participants subsequently. A sentit, an oracle, conveyed the message in the deity's voice. A sentit may conduct Tep Ra, mouth of the god, if one or more temple members require immediate spiritual guidance, a specific form of divination in which she excels. However, the outcomes and interpretation of the act should be revealed only after the ceremony's completion, to ensure that the focus remains on executing the rites accurately and commendably. Hisbu festivals. Employing cosmic energies offers numerous benefits. The Neta radiates a distinct energy that characterizes each season. Specific rituals can elicit certain energies, such as venerating Jehuti and summoning Anpu to activate divinatory abilities. The liturgy encompasses supplementary special observances, or festivals, hebs, frequently associated with the season's Neta. You can conduct these rites during the ceremony or at a different time during the season, like the full moon. During the season of Nut, we conduct the vigil at the full moon and recite the Hekau. During the Pisces period, the final sign of the zodiac, at the onset of the waning lunar hemicycle, this rite signifies the concurrent conclusion of the solar year and the lunar month. The Book of Hours replicates the vigil maintained by the gods over Asar, which will be reaffirmed in the upcoming season of Aries and at the new moon of the subsequent lunar cycle. The Senu, healer, may conduct the Heb. The Senu, whose primary goal is to distribute the Neta's unique advantages, is in a prime position to impartially and equitably organize and supervise the rite. You may conduct the Sa Seseneb, transfer of Sa, healing ritual or commemorative act for a deceased individual instead of the Heb. You may inscribe the recipient's names on a piece of paper and position it on the altar or offering tray. Consequently, a portion of the energy the ceremony produces is allocated to individuals in need or those being commemorated. Conclusion of the ceremony, Temau. As a concluding ritual, Temau functions solely as a formality, reminding participants of their obligation to return to the ordinary world, even as Neta accompanies them. The Western esoteric tradition typically disperses or returns spiritual forces to their source after the ceremony. Egyptian temples stood out due to their sacred spaces remaining consecrated until they underwent formal and ritual deconsecration after a disaster. Upon concluding the ceremony, the Sao, Watcher, should offer the final commendation to the Neta. Furthermore, the Sao concludes the liturgy with a prayer for all participants and emphasizes the spiritual benefits they have attained. As the event is documented in the temple register, the ceremonial participants must convene outside the sanctuary to deliberate on any new matters, including a timetable for upcoming events. During the recitation, the Sao may instruct participants to exit or guide a procession out of the building, part going forth. Following the ceremony's conclusion, the Sao will guide members to the designated meeting location for social or instructional events. Shesep. Reception. The final ceremonial act before the temple's closure was sweeping the sanctuary. A Sao may perform this symbolic act after a ceremony, utilizing the ceremonial broom to remove dust, footprints, or debris from the sanctuary floor, and sweeping it to the entrance before sealing it until the subsequent ceremony. Hymn to the Neta. Ceremonies of the Asar.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Season of Aries, Hesi. Asa, Sovereign of Eternity, I offer you my reverence. Neteru, among numerous names and the most sacred of all creations, is the Sovereign of Neteru. Upon entering the celestial vessel and experiencing rebirth today, we restore your sovereignty in the 2 lands. Congratulations, Lord of Marti. Your beauty is rejuvenated as you journey in the boat of 1,000,000 years, the foremost of the divine kin who ascend on the luminous horizon. There is a lot of talk about how modern society lacks ceremonies, and how our natural emotions of joy, loss, and fear remain unfulfilled because we don't have a meaningful way to express them. All events in ancient Egypt, whether cosmic or mundane, regardless of their triviality or recurrence, served as opportunities for spiritual acknowledgement and expressions of one's connection to the divine. Egypt continues to observe numerous ancient festivals today, similar to the ancient festival of Thebes, during which the Bark of Arnon was transported from Karnak to Luxor. The contemporary Abu el-Haggag festival also reflects this tradition. A similarly festive procession extends across the city, showcasing the splendor of the Muslim saint through a mobile bark. Villagers commemorate through dancing, singing, and feasting. On Monday, after Coptic, Orthodox, Easter, villagers observe Shem al-Nesim, which means sniffing the air. Festivals of Hebu? The Neteru perform subsequent ceremonies linked to the solar cosmology of our liturgy, the Iru. The Hebu festivals replicate the formidable deeds of the Neteru or honor their exceptional powers, enabling us to assimilate their qualities and incorporate them into our daily existence. This practice was intrinsic to Egyptian spirituality and available to all societal strata via temple dramas, processions, divinations, and public rituals. Birth, marriage, crisis, and death are significant transitional events in the lives of both deities and humans. Festivals occur to venerate the Neteru invoked throughout the festival cycle. We can conduct them as a ceremony within a ceremony, akin to Egyptian temple practices, which follow Pert Keru Neter, the proclamation of the deity. Alternatively, we can conduct them as public rituals of the contemporary temple, with each introductory material elucidating the context of the practices. The full moon is the optimal occasion to invite newcomers and the public to the temple during the temple period. Hebu is more specific and may provide special observances for a temple's members when required, unlike Iru's uniform ceremonies. Remember that the Hebu and Iru, which they commemorate, coincide with modern Northern Hemisphere seasons. In antiquity, certain periods were allocated for specific seasons or Nile inundations. However, when planning these ceremonies, one must take into account the natural cycles of each geographic and cosmic context. Breathings, a compendium of breathing techniques. The spring equinox marks the commencement of Aries, the inaugural zodiac sign, symbolizing the revival of life in the Northern Hemisphere. This signifies the rhythm of cardinal fire, the dynamic surge of energy that reemerges after the dormancy of winter with considerable vigor. During the cycle, the initiate is presumed to be physically severed from the life force, and through a sequence of incantations that summon her return to life, she is re-established with it. A book of breathings is an ancient practice of revitalizing hope by rejuvenating dormant or lifeless circumstances. It also empowers participants to recuperate, renew, and regain personal control during transitional circumstances. This technique can resolve a stalemate in decision-making or actions. A celebration of blissful unity. During the season of Het-Her, when fertility emerges from the earth, people observe the festival of the joyful union. At the onset of the growing season, the fecund goddess unites with her consort in Taurus, the fixed earth sign. In her crown, she represents how the sun, which is the active force of life, and the moon, which is the receptive force of soil, come together to start the cycle of natural reproduction in the environment, the new moon. Het-Her's artistic expression, music, dance, and performance becomes more accessible through this observance. She is also an asset to matters of love and relationships that anticipate reconciliation from afar. This festival suits weddings, engagements, or hand-fastings, evoking devotion, commitment, and celebration. All polarities converge in the festival of the joyous union, which promotes significant undertakings and occurrences that yield results and gain prominence. A prayer to Khons. As Jehuti gets closer, the sun moves into Gemini, an air sign that can change forms. Gemini is a symbol of how divine ideas become real and how creative expression becomes reality. The ibis god is the translator and chronicler of divine actions within the Akashic record, the universal documentation of all thoughts and deeds. He has considerable experience earning, educating, and writing within the ordinary realm. He may be required to make public appearances and deliver speeches. Jehuti, as chief prosecutor in the divine court, offers astute guidance on legal issues, especially regarding contracts, financial adjudications, and the resolution of ethical duties. The Khans were This is the oracle of the archaic temple. This is the reflective representation of Jehuti. He is the sovereign of manifestations and appearances in the lunar domain. People primarily recognize Jehuti as the master of divination and invoke him to cultivate astral vision. By invoking Khans, the querent can objectively perceive future events before their occurrence in this realm, enabling them to alter their trajectory. Khans is summoned to safeguard against demonic possession from the shadow realm, as he was the preeminent exorcist in antiquity. He can eradicate malevolent influences from the world and resolve situations hindered by adversarial forces. A lotus ceremony is taking place. The powers of Neteru and the deities she embodies emerge in the solar cosmogony as the seeds sown during the equinox reach full bloom at the spring equinox, when the sun attains its northernmost position and the summer solstice yields the longest daylight hours. Cancer, the cardinal water sign, embodies Neteru, the guardian of the throne, nurturer of Heru during his childhood, and high priestess for her brother Asar in the transformation chamber. She remained in the background while diligently fulfilling these roles, safeguarding against disruptive influences, compromising the sacred rituals. We indoctrinate young individuals and introduce them to the sanctuary for analogous purposes, to cultivate lofty ambitions in novices while protecting them from potentially detrimental yet innocuous influences. In the Lotus ceremony, these goals are brought to life by calling on the goddess to protect, teach, and awaken the senses to sacred truths in the realm of the awakening soul. Neteru, as a mentor and nurse, ensures that individuals awakening to spiritual life are dedicated to Mut, the path of the natural order. Neteru's responsibilities encompass parenting, elder care, and enhancing health, particularly concerning diet and nutrition. Both mother and child must undergo purification following the Lotus ceremony upon their initial entry into the temple, upon reaching maturity, after a safe delivery, and after childbirth. The consecration of the temple. Midsummer signifies elevated temperatures, reflecting the divine fire associated with the fixed fire sign of Leo. Septepi, or the first time, was established by this force, which emerged upon the waters during the preceding season of Cancer's cosmogenesis. Upon achieving spiritual maturity, we recognize the powers of creation and utilize these abilities, guided by the temple's wisdom, to fulfill the purposes of the gods and society. In ancient Egypt, the deity, Hemu, consecrated the clergy to their positions, allowing them to serve either part-time, phyloi, or permanently. After this revelation, one could access the innermost chambers of the divine house by entering the sanctuary and traversing the shrine. The temple's provisioners, perfumers, librarians, and theurgists would articulate their roles and apprise newcomers of their obligations, demonstrating their instruments, wands, and scepters. Leo embodies the essence of sovereignty and dignity, marking a period of spiritual ascendance. It may manifest as initiation rites, with the anointing into the temple as a formal induction into the contemporary temple's service program. Legalizing neophytes' names is a crucial element of this observance. The divine house recognizes the adoption of one's spiritual identity, which transpired during the season of Mut, Aquarius, 6 months prior. Professional and familial responsibilities within the domain of Heru enhance an individual's status. This observance may also be conducted when confronted with overwhelming secular challenges and responsibilities, or when an individual has voluntarily changed their name and seeks spiritual recognition. Provisions at the grand ceremony. Harvesting occurs during the season of Virgo, the mutable earth sign, which coincides with the growing season. Ancient societies suspended their environmental stewardship during this period to prepare for the harvest, commemorating the fruition of their labor and revering the forces of the land. In the early period of Egyptian history, Geb, the deity of the earth and progenitor of the Heliopolitan gods, diminished to obscurity. The tumultuous occurrences in his children's lives overshadowed his abilities. The children were Asar, Auset, Nebt-Het, and Set. Notwithstanding this, he bequeathed to his progeny the divine inheritance, the red and black territories, and the throne that established the royal house. This season prompts us to nurture this legacy and pass it on to future generations. In Geb, one will encounter issues related to family expansion, construction, domestic conflicts, and the allocation of property via wills and endowments. This observance may encompass a family reunion, memorial service, or collective dedication. It is also suitable for Thanksgiving celebrations and the dedication of a new residence. An expression of grief. The remains of Asar were found dismembered along the Nile at multiple sacred sites, subsequently gathered and transported to Abydos, the ancestral burial ground. In the presence of the deities, Auset and Nebt-Het endeavored to reconstruct and revive the body of his sister Nebt-Het. The season is characterized by dissolution and decomposition, succeeded by hibernation, before renewal, growth, and fruition. Libra is a cardinal air sign that temporarily separates the connection between spirit and matter. This lets each one grow and change without the other one. This season represents unity and division in human relationships, embodying the duality of the sacred marriage symbolized by Auset and Asar. The Lamentations depict a dichotomy between spirit and matter, highlighting the sorrow stemming from their separation and subsequent unification. In the season before the waning of light, we are also assured that the return of the light will restore our wholeness again. As Ur-Hekkau, great of magic. Auset has divine powers to heal psychic illness and poisoning from any source. Furthermore, she rectifies unjust circumstances, reconciles familial and amicable conflicts, and ensures safety during international travel. The observance upholds marital fidelity and aids in coping with loss and separation by reinforcing or reinstating our commitment to agreements and relationships. The Ushabti possess power. We foresee the diminishing light and the inevitable forces of life and death that we will encounter during the forthcoming hibernation period. The reminder of our mortality, coupled with the alchemy of nature symbolized by Scorpio, illustrates the transformation of decaying matter into a superior substance, thus facilitating the renewal of life. Without compromising psychic resources, one can invoke a superior form of magic to engage with the natural forces that facilitate such transitions. Terrestrial experience imparts wisdom, virtuous actions yield advantages, and alignment with nature cultivates personal power. The soul is recompensed for virtuous actions, including aiding individuals in poverty, restoring canals along the Nile, and heeding the counsel of sages. Inscriptions in tombs throughout the millennia demonstrate that ancient Egyptians esteemed these attributes. An individual may forfeit such rewards by neglecting certain terrestrial obligations. Heka's guidance helped overcome these obstacles. Empowering the Ushabtiu enabled the spirits to execute tasks according to their owner's likeness, thereby liberating the soul from the toil of the lower realms. Such helpers are essential in demanding environments. Anpu is the opener of pathways of the shadow realms. In this role, he serves as the Theurgist's steadfast companion, providing insights to assist the Theurgist in surmounting limitations and challenges within the astral realm. He may assist in resolving the affairs of the deceased and addressing issues of ambiguous or complex origins. Besides safeguarding personal belongings, he offers psychic protection when navigating unfamiliar environments or situations. The commemoration of Imhotep, the cadence of Sagittarius, the planet of mutable fire, elicits the restorative abilities of entities that have aided mortals and deities. The sign symbolizes the centaur Chiron, who imparted the art of healing to the physician Asclepios, as per Greek tradition, which is mirrored in contemporary astrology. Modern physicians remain astonished by the discovery of medical papyri, which demonstrates that medicine was a venerable profession in Egypt and that their predecessors possessed extensive knowledge and expertise. Imhotep's unparalleled expertise in architecture, astronomy, theology, and medicine made him the epitome of human accomplishment in ancient times. Regarding the latter, his reputation expanded over time, and by the Greco-Roman periods, his healing temples became pilgrimage destinations for travelers throughout the civilized world. An ancient healer could attain the esteemed title of Son of Sekhmet Bast. The healing fire pertains to Sekhmet Bast and encompasses purgation, sealing, and purification. Imhotep served as her intermediary in antiquity and was the inaugural individual to attain deification. She administers secure medical care, remedies physical ailments, and conducts surgical procedures. In serious conflicts, she intervenes to establish peace with adversaries. The Sokar Festival. Sokar, associated with funerary customs, symbolizes the transmutation of matter through burial in the earth. As a deity of the sea, he was confined in a coffin by Set and transported to the ocean. The Coffined One is one of his appellations. Here, we depict the primordial waters, symbolizing a new beginning through their emergence. Beyond death, incarnation in the physical realm represents merely the evolution of the same force. The festival of Sokar, observed during the winter solstice, recognizes the onset of seasonal isolation and serves as a reminder of our mortality. It anticipates a revival in spring when the dormant life force re-emerges. Utilizing Set's abilities can promote productive interactions with both superiors and opponents. Issues about inheritance and financial challenges also fall within his jurisdiction. A Sokar observance occurs in midwinter to lament loss or alleviate depression. Regarding funerary practices, it is an exceptional substitute for a memorial service. Presenting Ma'at. As the soul nears the celestial gateway, it separates from the physical realm. As an initiate, Ma'at necessitates a commitment to the tenets of divine harmony and the execution of social and moral responsibilities. In antiquity, the clergy proclaimed those principles upon entering a temple. To guarantee the maintenance of order and the administration of divine justice by the royal authority, the pharaoh routinely presented Ma'at. Utilizing a naming ceremony to venerate the goddess as a confirmation of that commitment is fitting. Ma'at denotes any legal circumstance that postpones justice. Her presence at the dedications of monumental works for the royal house and temples, along with her oversight of their technical execution, renders the inauguration of such enterprises within her purview. Furthermore, Jehuti is her consort, the supreme evaluator of human actions and the authority on prophetic endeavors. Individuals seeking her wisdom may consult her through divination, and she serves as the patroness of novices in new vocations. Daily hours. Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, assimilates the energies of the sun's yearly passage and disseminates them into the cosmic ocean, the matrix of Nut. As the solar cycle concludes, an era of experience is drawing to a close, and a new beginning is expected. Each soul returns to mutable water to cultivate new abilities and emerge, rejuvenated, into a life replete with challenges and rewards. Throughout the Book of Hours, the Neteru observes a vigil, anticipating the return of the green deity Asar. Her power protects the initiate from detrimental influences and concealed adversaries. Concentrating on one's abilities before a significant event mitigates the unpredictability of critical circumstances. The Heibu encompasses more than mere static rituals. Participants emulate the deities and reenact celestial occurrences in the eternal realm through verbal and physical expressions. When executed within the dramatic framework, the actors may attain detachment from such potent energies. Nevertheless, ancient dramatic rituals also elicited significant fervor from the spectators. Breathings. The volume. According to Egyptian mythology, Jehuti Shai and Wept Ra Sensen, also known as the Book of Opening the Mouth for Breathing, authored this tome. Only a limited number of copies remain, composed during a particular historical period and location. Everything known to exist is located adjacent to the ancient city of Permenu in Middle Egypt. During the Greco-Roman period in the 1st century CE, they were composed after the Egyptian civilization. Furthermore, the funerary treasures of temple priests and priestesses seem to have exclusively incorporated this ritual. It denotes a ritual that ensures a deliberate passage into a non-physical domain. While this work shares certain ritual elements with Un-Ra, the opening of the mouth ceremony, it possesses unique characteristics. While seemingly designed to monitor an existing sentient being, it catalyzes the individual's awakening to a novel dimension, wherein the amalgamation of new abilities becomes feasible. Besides reanimation, it serves as an entry into a new spiritual reality, the cosmos. The ancient Egyptians believed that nature, deities, and humanity depended on breath in different manifestations for existence. Numerous cultures throughout history have animated the inanimate by expelling bodily fluids. Indigenous peoples create rock or sand paintings by chewing natural materials that yield colors and then exhaling or spitting the pigments onto their artwork. They perceive these acts as simulations of the spiritual creation of the universe. And anthropologists believe this practice has been observed since ancient times, from Neanderthal cave dwellers to contemporary Australian Aborigines. Artists assume the dual roles of creator and innovator as they produce art. This methodology was integral to the Egyptian practice of bestowing, prolonging, and rejuvenating life. The Book of Breathings fulfills this, completely restoring physical and conscious faculties through integration with cosmic life. Confirmation. At Egypt's southern frontier, the island of Philae exemplifies the sacred tradition of Asar's sanctuary on the adjacent island of Biga, where the shrine of Asar has existed for millennia. At the transition of the decanal asterisms that signified the commencement and conclusion of the year at the shrine known as Iat Senmut, the Abaton of the Greeks, offerings were presented every 10 days. During this ceremony, priests from the Iat Wabet temple on Philae, to the east, reenacted Aset's pilgrimage to the tomb of her deceased husband. A legend at Philae recounts the daily offerings of milk and bread positioned on 365 altars throughout the island of Biga. The ceremony's gravity also forbade music. The Egyptians were thought to have discovered the Nile's source, represented by a serpent-encircled cave housing the deity Hapi. Hapi signifies the waters of life, while Asar embodies the substance that engenders existence. His association with Asar is intentional, as both embody the life-sustaining force of the inundation cycle. Their inherent connection and the sacred sites they collectively established formed the foundation of the Nile Valley. The Book of Breathings is considered integral to the ritual recitation of the goddess, depicted as a female falcon who generated wind with her wings to enable her husband to breathe. This was reenacted during her priesthood's decadal visit to the Abaton. Consequently, the observance may have remained clandestine until the conclusion of the Ancient Era, when the adherents disclosed numerous aspects of the esoteric tradition in a final act of reverence. Characters in the play, Yunmutef, the pillar of his mother or representative son of Auset, plays a vital role in the rites of transformation as the high priest who reinstates his father's sovereignty and the divine powers within the temple. Auset's name signifies the throne of Egypt. He possesses the transformative abilities of his predecessor, Heru, in the sacred sites, the temple, and the tomb. He supports the mummy during funerary ceremonies and accompanies the goddess on vital missions for the fallen god in temple rites. He dons the speckled leopard skin and the sidelock of youth, serving the same role as the Sitem priest. Like how he bestowed the goddess with the sacred utterances that resurrected her spouse, the celestial scribe Jehuti supplies the incantations and orchestrates the ceremony. Per the previous guidelines, the Kerheb can fulfill this function. Tahiti represents Asar's swathed one ceremonial image and signifies all individuals impacted by the ritual infusion. Asar is the patron of the Hem-Ka, which may assume this role. Tahiti's station is positioned at the base of Nebt-Het, whereas Auset's is located at the head of the bier. Most of what they do takes place in the metaphysical realm, where they perform ceremonies that copy the flow of divine breath through their stations to the lifeless body of the enveloped entity. Festival of the Blissful Union, Heb and Seken. The ancient Egyptian deities were equally sensitive to the emotions of joy and sorrow in love and separation. It was common for important festivals to grow during a time when people believed that harmonious relationships between gods, humans, and nature's spirits could heal. The agricultural cycle of the Nile reached its zenith during numerous events, particularly during the season of Shemut, lack of water, when the harvest commenced. Referred to as the Feast of the Joyous Union, Reb and Seken, this annual festival celebrates the reunion of Heru and Hether. A barge, accompanied by hundreds of attendants, transported the goddess's image from her sanctuary at Edfu to the residence of her consort, utilizing a vessel constructed by the priests of the prominent temples of Hether at Dendera and Heru at Edfu. Plutarch's Lives recounts that a fragrant procession released an aroma that captivated an entire Roman legion during its passage from Alexandria to Tarsus in 41 BCE. Cleopatra VII replicated this ceremony by arriving in a golden vessel at Marcus Antonius's camp in Tarsus that same year. A singular marathon ceremony at Edfu merged many of the esteemed temple traditions of Upper Egypt to venerate the divine couple. The ceremony of opening the mouths of the deities' effigies occurred in the adjacent temples and residences, accompanied by an offering of the initial fruits of the harvest to the temple. The Ret Besu, or driving of the calves, was a significant rite conducted exclusively at the Edfu temple. This ritual involved the symbolic trampling of grain by 4 temple calves, each adorned in coats of black, red, white, and speckled hues. According to legend, serpents endeavored to obstruct Heru's rise to the throne by dispersing the harvested grain piles during this ceremony. The Reb Teknu, Festival of Intoxication, occurred the subsequent year. Following the reenactment of the goddess' intoxicated fury aimed at annihilating the initial human race that opposed her father, Ra, the occasion commemorated her unsuccessful attempt to slay them with beer tainted by blood to appease her wrath. Subsequently, the monarch presented Maat, truth, order, to the deities to ensure the year's occurrences would unfold without obstruction. In contemporary times, summer transpires in both the northern and southern hemispheres. The Feast of the Joyous Union is thus celebrated in late spring, specifically during the sign of Taurus, which represents the attributes of Neteru and her lineage. The consumption of May wine, the commencement of the wedding season, and the traditional rituals honoring this goddess also occur during this period. The observance. Marriage ceremonies in ancient Egypt were informal. Notably, in secular life, legal considerations took precedence over spiritual ones, but they did not overlook the spiritual connections among individuals. This ceremony formalizes the pledge of a sacred union, embodying the profound significance acknowledged and celebrated by the ancients. The Egyptians were not capricious regarding same-sex marriages. Numerous tombs illustrate unrelated men in affectionate embraces, and prohibitions against such relationships have evolved by societal norms. Some funerary declarations of innocence deem this behavior immoral, while others omit it. We deemed it suitable to present specific plants to the deities of eroticism. The funerary art of Tutankhamun depicts his wife, Ankhesenamun, offering a mandrake plant, symbolizing the virility she inspires in her husband. At Dendera, offerings to Neteru comprise pomegranates, which the ancients regarded as a symbol of the vulva. The ancients regarded lettuce as an aphrodisiac, similar to the lotus flower. The ceremony would be suitable if the offerings enhanced these symbolic gifts. This ceremony employs the sounds of sistra rattles and menat necklace rattles to venerate Neteru's rhythmic abilities. During the festival of inebriation, the temples distributed vibrant blue faience cups filled with red beer, colored with pomegranate juice and red hibiscus flowers. Collars of aromatic flowers interlaced to symbolize the usik are in the hues of the entity known as Mistress of Turquoise. During these festivities, people don the goddess's collar, which imparts life-sustaining breath. Ancient travelers reported that clouds of myrrh incense filled the air during the event. A congregation of the deities occurred at Dendera during the new moon, in the 8th hour after dawn. According to legend, Heru and Neteru conceived their offspring, Ihai, on the 4th night of their union, enabling them to return to the temple on the 5th day to present an offering. Through this gesture, he invokes the capacity to instill tranquility within the marriage. People infused the Egyptian blue lotus tincture into wine and consumed it as an extract or tincture during ceremonies and celebrations. Investigations into the characteristics of this plant have uncovered intriguing information regarding its utilization in antiquity. The phytosterols in the lotus flower are made up of 3 types of bioflavonoids. Bioflavonoids are what give plants their color and make them very good at fighting free radicals. Numerous recognized herbs possess these compounds. Their physiological effects are analogous to, yet more potent than, ginseng and ginkgo biloba, particularly the latter. It enhances circulation and possesses aphrodisiac qualities. Ancient Egyptians highly valued the blue lotus for its aesthetic appeal, fragrance, and therapeutic properties. The Egyptians exhibited considerable proficiency in herbal medicine. The flower symbolizes health and sexual enhancement, representing rebirth. These attributes signify human experiences of spiritual and physical enlightenment. As the creative force attains consciousness in adolescence, ancient societies instituted rites of passage into this remarkable and potent domain. Ceremonies reenacted the genesis of new life from the ocean of celestial waters, imparting guidance on the appropriate application of these powers. Similarly, the life-sustaining processes of childbirth and breastfeeding prompted significant rituals among ancient cultures that acknowledged the origins of the forces that sustain us. Humans inherently believe that these forces generate all life. The anointing and baptism ceremonies for both mother and child reflected the original creation, symbolizing the women's purported purification during that era. In the Book of Going Forth by Day and the Pyramid texts, the soul manifests as a lotus upon entering a divine state. One ascends from earth to a sacred island in eternity, where the deities of creation, Nun, Ra, and Khepera, rest. Through this process, the initiate perceives the fundamental link between human and divine existence that delineates the significance and purpose of the newly embraced life. We can consequently evoke these identical powers within us and manifest them to their fullest potential. Esteem. The Lotus ceremony encompasses a purification and dedication ritual, succeeded by ritual bathing, censing, anointing, and a pledge by temple mentors to navigate the soul through the new realm. Significant ritual purifications, symbolic actions, and dedications were conducted in the temple's outer courts, and dedications occurred in the Hall of Appearances directly adjacent to the sanctuary. Only events commemorating the temple's anointing during the upcoming cycle in Leo can grant initiates access to the inner sanctum. Depending on the temple's resources, one may conduct the Nej case, small anointing, or Kasu-ur case, great anointing. Reliefs illustrate mothers presenting aromatic flowers and herbs as offerings to the local deity, who is represented as the divine child in the mamisi, birth houses, of the grand temples. An icon of Nefertum or a solitary lily flower is bestowed upon the initiate, accompanied by new attire, a temple gown or shawl. Similarly, the initiate may present a floral offering upon entering the sanctuary after the ceremony. The consecration of Khanu Kasit in the temple. Legend attributes the inception of Egypt's priestly tradition to the Heru Shemsu, the adherents of Heru. This mystical brotherhood transmitted Egypt's sacred rituals from an unspecified homeland and maintained them through ancient theurgy's impeccable and immutable practices for millennia. Within the divine house, it is appropriate to recognize Heru as the quintessential officiant, being the son of the gods and the essence of the royal house, upon entering the temple, and to honor the ancestral beings during this entrance. The initial act in the daily Egyptian ritual involved consecrating a priest or priestess, encompassing bathing, anointing, censing, and proclaiming purity. Before this event, a fast was observed in certain temples, potentially restricting specific foods deemed offensive to the neter of the temple for an indeterminate duration. A sponsor, usually a relative or a senior cleric, introduced the candidate in the temple. The unveiling of Neter's mysteries transpired in select temples as an element of a ritual, drama, or seclusion within the temple's most hallowed function. A congregation of sanctuary priests may have recognized the consecration by displaying the instruments of their service in a procession, during which the Hem Neter proclaimed or introduced them upon their entrance into the sanctuary. This may have been the initial instance of numerous opportunities, or, in certain temples, the sole occasion, as only one priest was appointed to conduct the daily ritual of unveiling the face of the god. Honor. Before this ceremony, you can wear the priestly vestments outside the sanctuary and receive guidance on temple purification, Gasu Nej or Gasu Ur. The candidate presents a substantial offering to the temple before selecting a renter, divine temple. Clerics recognize and document the donation in the temple ledger. The clerics guide the candidate through the subsequent ritual practices. The candidate lowers his head for the purification ritual. Apart from adhering to the divine house's regulations, the Egyptian temple undertook few pledges or obligations. Such promises serve merely as reminders of individual and communal commitment. For the enlightened, they become superfluous when devotion to the divine transforms into an inherent practice of mindful existence. Upon entering the sanctum, The temple guarantees the candidate protection through a litany recited by Jehuti while restoring Heru's eye. During the recitation, Jehuti purifies each body part by touching each designated area with the adze scepter. The temple priest's performance of this ritual underscores Heru's function in preserving order and the safeguarding it offers. The temple duties of the clergy not only restore one's faculties, but also constitute a transference of power. In conclusion, the Henu salutation closely resembles the ritual gesture associated with the Heru Shemsu. The rite is illustrated in tombs and temples as a component of the final scenes of initiation and historical records as an element of the rite of victory. Candidates kneel on their right knees with the left foot flat on the floor, while the right foot is positioned at a 90-degree angle to the ground. They salute with their left elbow flexed. With the palm facing upward, the right arm is extended forward, drawn to the chest, and positioned beneath the heart. After 3 repetitions of the gesture, re-extend the right arm forward, keeping the palm facing upward. The right hand touches the heart to articulate Di Angsh Uas Jed, which translates to given life, power, and stability. The Henu gesture. As per the Heru Shemsu legend, 2 castes existed, the souls of Pi and the souls of Nekhen. The latter, which originated in Upper Egypt, adopted the wolf or hound as their emblem. The sacred area at Nekeb was designated Per-Ur, derived from the Greek term pharaoh, signifying exalted house. The vulture, Nekebet, safeguarded the king by conferring upon him his white crown. The Egyptians held that the solar priests at the Heliopolis temple were descendants of the members of 2 houses known as the souls of Heliopolis. The Samaref, denoting kin, friend, serves as a guardian, sponsor, and initiator of the T-Temple's high rituals, particularly during the induction of a new monarch into the priestly house's mysteries. Heru fulfills a ceremonial function, akin to that of a sponsor in Masonic rituals. Ma, the patron of Heru, may undertake this role. The candidate's laboratory aids in their initial purification and accompanies them to the sanctuary. Alongside the Ker Heb conducting the name entry, the Satem supplies salt, water, bread, and the Hotep tray with offerings, which will be presented to the temple's deity. The Grand Offering. Ceremony of A-Hotep di Nesu. What type of offering is suitable for honoring the Lord of Offerings? During this period, the Neter, who nourishes all living entities, compels them to yield fruits that embody their inherent characteristics. The pylon gateway of Edfu illustrates scenes from an essential temple ritual, the offering to the Shebtu, ancestors. The ancient Egyptians believed these entities established the temple and perpetually resided in the divine house as guides. According to tradition, the temple necropolis is the burial site. In Egypt, these commemorations occurred at every temple as they were considered essential periodic reflections within spiritual existence. The preservation and reverence of the temple's tradition were vital components of ancient spirituality, and they were routinely honored to sustain its remembrance. The rites also commemorated the ancestors of the community and the royal house, symbolizing the temple's spiritual continuity. Disposition. Theatrical. The Satem conducts the initial offering for the couple. Alongside the pair are the 9 deities of Edfu, the Shebtu, who accept the initial offerings and oversee the ceremony as attendants and witnesses. One individual may symbolize this esteemed entity and function as the couple's direct progenitor. She metamorphoses into Het-Her, the tutelary deity of Kena. Following her invocation in the sanctuary, the goddess presents her consort to the priestess. We refer to the goddess in this ceremony as the mistress of the virgins. She performs this role by bestowing husbands upon her favored priestesses, thereby obviating the best man function in Western wedding traditions. Wehemu Khonshu Neferhotep. Invocation of Khons. Khons, who specialize in divination and exorcism, combine the powers of Jehuti. Nebt-Het amalgamates the restorative attributes of Gemini during Cancer season with the introspective qualities of Cancer during Gemini season. Neomenia, Nita of the new moon of the new year. During the Egyptian calendar, the 9th solar month, Pachons, governs. Khons Jehuti Neferhotep was his exclusive domain name at Karnak. A legend describes the banishment of a possessing spirit in the New Kingdom by the god Ra. The legend tells the tale of Princess Bentreshi, the sister of Raneferu, one of the queens of Ramesses II. Her brother, the Prince of Bekhten, appealed to Egypt for the assistance of Pharaoh's magician priests to cure her. In the New Kingdom, a possessing spirit was banished to this temple by a Theban god. Princess Bentreshi, the sister of Raneferu, is the protagonist of the story of King Ramesses II's sister. Her brother, Prince Bekhten, was one of the queens of Ramesses II. She appealed to Pharaoh's magician priests for their assistance in delivering her from the illness. In response to the oracular consultation, Neteru agreed to help after consulting with Khons. Following this, the temple priests sent a small statue, in which the great statue of Neteru at the temple had transferred its spirit into the smaller one, on a journey to the distant kingdom. Khons was brought to combat the demon, and the Neteru thereby made peace with it. Following this, Bekhten erected a splendid shrine to Khons. People also hold the belief that Khons possess special powers connected to the placenta, which is regarded as the body's mirrored image. The Neteru represents an unmanifest life, one that is becoming. He is the patron of the divine Ka, guardian and custodian of its potential. He embodies the royal soul, all that once existed and all that shall be. He is past and future, the potentiality of the gods. Consequently, the Neteru governed oracular practices in the celestial domain. Sebu Jerti, the Lamentations. At dawn, the sun's orb approaches the constellation of Libra, beginning the season of fall. Shortly after its arrival, the night starts to lengthen, heralding the dark of winter. Since the beginning of recorded history, the passage of the sun through the seasons has marked episodes of profound consequence in nature that have altered human activity and, in turn, the awareness of spiritual realities. As a result of these cosmic events, the ancient mystery cycle began. These mysteries weren't just an acknowledgement of the celestial current's change. Additionally, they were an opportunity to descend into the realm of dark powers that confine the body but renew the soul in the season of darkness, as the sun falls on the southern horizon in the second half of the year. As the agricultural year draws to a close in the northern hemisphere, the autumnal equinox signals regret and preparation, a reminder of the critical flux of life that must be honorably and carefully preserved for the longed-for renewal of spring. Among Egypt's many mysteries of Asar ceremonies, the Lamentations are the most moving. Auset and Nebt-Het have lovingly reassembled God's broken body in the saga of God's life, death, and renewal, to realize the loss that his absence represents to them and all of Egypt. With grief and sorrow, these mourners call him back to life in hopes of being reunited. This observance symbolizes the season and human mortality. We can retreat into the void, surrender to its powers, and find pathways to wholeness and restoration. A sharp contrast exists between the Lamentations and the Book of Breathings, associated with the equinox opposite Aries, which was a part of the mystery rites of Asar, but not part of the Lamentations. The latter's restoration process results in Asar's face becoming green, germination, after hibernation. According to nature, the deity that generates life must retreat to pursue its creative origin beyond the natural realm. The two sisters, Gerti, female hawks, assume the role of nature's guardians in the enigmatic cycle that commences in autumn and concludes in spring. The rituals, the invocations, and the vigils conducted by Oset and Nebt-Het guarantee the resurgence of the creative force. Nonetheless, they illustrate how those forces can manifest when the timing is appropriate. Collectively, they constitute the structure through which divine forces manifest in the empirical realm. Nebt-Het signifies the Lord's house, while Auset denotes the throne. Expressions of mourning were conducted throughout Egypt to commence Asar's mysteries, with the most significant rituals occurring at Abydos, where extensive traditions were observed to commemorate Asar's demise, resurrection, and rejuvenation. The entire city commemorated Asar's funeral and burial in the hallowed earth of the ancient necropolis, encompassing all the nearby temples. The fertility of the two lands was guaranteed in the subsequent cycle of cultivation and harvest through the mystical infusion of statues crafted in his likeness from grain, clay, and earth with his powers. Observing. A Ptolemaic papyrus from the Lamentations indicates that the performance occurred on the 25th of Choyach, coinciding with the Sokar festival of the Lower Kingdom, shortly before the winter solstice. During this period in ancient Egypt, Orion vanished from the night sky and reappeared roughly 3 months later. Besides being conducted across Egypt after inundation, it had its inaugural observance in Abydos after seed implantation. The priestesses of Asar resided in the temple precinct exclusively for this annual ritual, after which they withdrew for the remainder of the year. It is advisable to recite the Lamentations during the 3rd and 8th hours of the day, or the 3rd and 8th hours post-dawn. In persona dramatis, 2 critical priestesses are involved in this observance: Auset and Nebt-Het. Priestesses who performed these rites may have permanently tattooed their names on their arms. Auset and Nebt-Het may have been part of the old rubric. Invoking ancient spells, her son Heru performs the offering under the guidance of the Ur-Hekau, whose patron is Auset. The Setem prepares a clay jar filled with water and a small loaf of bread for each priestess. When the priestesses recite, they should hold the jar in their right hand and the bread in their left, and they should bow their heads during the recitations. You can decorate the altar with an image of Asar. Replace the image with an object belonging to the absent person, or write their name on it. You can also offer the precious materials indicated in the recitation's conclusion to the image. These include gold, silver, lapis lazuli, alabaster, turquoise, and myrrh incense. Construct them all in uniform sizes and shapes, then place them on the Hotep tray. Heka Ushaptiu, empowering the Ushaptiu. Ancient Egypt's funerary lore is fascinating and full of the Ushapti, also called the Shapti. Some tombs contain 365 Ushaptis, which were placed with the deceased to provide daily assistance. Chapter 6 of the Book of Going Forth by Day presents a formula for imbuing the Ushaptiu with life and assumability. Following that, Day instructs the spirits to carry out any necessary task. The attendant spirits were proficient at cultivating fields, irrigating land, and transporting sand from the eastern to the western zones of the sacred regions. The spell is nearly identical to others used by the temple magicians to empower their tools. The wands, scepters, crowns, and even pieces of fabric infused with the powers of the gods were regarded as essential instruments of transformation, since they were believed to possess their own identity. Situla. People carry a ceremonial container in processions to the sanctuary. It may contain incense, or it may hold milk. This festival, which celebrates the birth of life and has connections to Oset and Neteru, involves the use of water and wine. Sistrum. The sacred rhythm of Neteru invites vital, protective forces. At the beginning of ceremonies, it serves to safeguard the sacred precinct and ward off malevolent forces. She recreates the harmony of divine life, with her instruments as a nater of music and dance. Nekeka. The right-handed royal scepter is a flail with 3 loose streamers, symbolizing Hu, the creative manifestation. The blade symbolizes the forces of justice and welfare. Initially employed to segregate grain from chaff during harvest, it was an archaic agricultural implement of the Lower Kingdom. Anki. In almost all Egyptian iconography, the Ankh symbol signifies life, as it embodies the life force of the deity who possesses it. In this context, it refers to the vital essence of the creator who possesses it. This force's nature varies according to the deity, yet it consistently signifies an infusion of divine power, revitalizing the recipient. Decode. The Egyptians believed that the sacred fire of purification resided within flint. Sacerdotal experts predominantly utilized it in funerary rites, healing practices, and sorcery. In ancient Egypt, people revered Sekhmet for her ability to spill blood, and they celebrated her temples as surgical centers. Hika! The crook, originally a shepherd's staff, symbolizes the divine order, Mat, that directs humanity and serves as one of the royal scepters. It enhances Sia, the inherent knowledge the sovereign has elicited. The observance. Both deities must perform their essential roles to expel malevolent forces. Citing the incantation to summon Jehuti initially is crucial to avert spiritual intrusion. The participants use writing implements, ink and pens. KH is preparing to document any auditory phenomena from the ceremony for Jehutir Heb. The incantation is initially uttered to summon Jehuti to safeguard the ceremony against malevolent spirits. They subsequently request that Khans address inquiries or stipulations that the tea temple may permit. The Sentit is responsible for choosing the most appropriate method of divination. In the Egyptian temple, scrying bowls or mirrors are the preferred method. The Egyptians fill the bowl with water from a vase and then apply temple oil to create a reflective surface. Those scrutinizing it should also generously incense the bowl. Copper temple mirrors were stored in wooden boxes, anointed and censed before use. They were similarly crafted from copper and kept covered. Novices in divination may develop unrealistic expectations or impatience due to the difficulty in comprehending the information received. However, the environment of prophecy should be approached with reverence. The ancient oracles exhibited neither haste nor frivolity in displaying their powers. To fully experience the areas of divine insight, one must be aware of its benefits and respect the patience needed to reach that level of understanding. The Great Offering Ceremony honors Geb, the progenitor of the Heliopolitan Quartet comprising Asar, Auset, Set, and Nebt-Het, and the Neter of ancestral lineage. In the legends, Geb's inheritance is depicted as the Earth's harvest, represented by the collection of its fruits in the sign of Virgo. Nonetheless, his inheritance encompasses more than just cultivated crops. As the celestial progenitor, he permits his offspring to surpass terrestrial realms. Asar bequeathed this throne to Heru, and each subsequent monarch representing the authority of the royal house on earth and the potential of the latent temporal power. Confirmation. The Great Offering ceremony begins with the veneration of Geb, the progenitor. During the ceremony, 8 libations are offered, each as a gift from the other 8 members of the Heliopolitan Ennead, whose spiritual progenitor is Geb. Alongside these libations, offerings include bread, beer, wine, water, fowl, natron, incense, and sacred oil. In antiquity, 8 red vases containing consumables, beer, wine, bread, fowl, and 8 white vases containing purifications, incense, water, oil, natron, were utilized for this presentation. Contemporary temples may symbolically display these vases, with their names inscribed in hieroglyphs, on individual trays. We also record the names of the individuals commemorated on the tray of vases. The memorial service may incorporate photographs. A second illustration of the potency of vocal evocation in Egyptian theurgy is the part there, voice offerings. Ancient Egyptians regarded symbolic offerings as equally effective and satisfying as material offerings. Numerous tombs feature inscriptions urging visitors and passers-by to present offerings to the deceased, but an ancient tradition of descendants or Ka priests neglects this duty. The subsequent segment of the ceremony commemorates ancestral remains. Hotep trays with food and votive offerings are presented here. Following the ceremony, the communal repast disseminates these offerings. Individuals whose memory warrants preservation customarily receive Hotep Dinesu, royal offering. Setem portrays Heru, the son of Asar, who first resurrected his deceased father by offering sustenance. As a result, the king, a descendant and representative of Heru, consistently conducted the ritual in his name, thus justifying the title. As a result, people regarded it as the most potent ritual possible in a sacred setting. The inscription in Senuser's tomb served as the inspiration for this version. The incantation also placates the agitated spirits of the necropolis, who may be unsettled by individuals trespassing upon their graves. During the concluding recitation, all attendees receive Geb's advantages. Sekhem. This scepter is a hieroglyphic emblem representing authority and power. The keep is frequently adorned with the royal insignia of the crook and flail, symbolizing the divine authority bestowed upon the monarch. Unmanned aerial systems. Sekhmet exclusively wields it in his left hand. The shaft depicts Ptah as the origin of electromagnetic flux. It is widely believed to have been constructed from the remnants of the bull's penis and scrotum, symbolizing the virile power of male creator deities. Inscriptions on temples and tombs illustrate priestly art and portray various objects linked to theurgical practices. Netas wield a scepter that signifies and conveys their power, although the terms are frequently used interchangeably. Each subtle body possesses a rod that enhances its potency. The Temple of Edfu inscribes a morning hymn that describes the presentation of God's regalia and scepters during the morning service. Additionally, it delineates the appropriate hand for each rod's placement. Compliance. Initially, individuals summon Anpu to channel protective energies into the objects they intend to empower. Pre-engrave the names of particular deities on the scepters. The flint knife pertains to Sekhmet Bast, the Heka, and Nekheka relate to Asar, and the sistrum is linked to Auset and Het-Her. Thus, it is suitable to invoke the 5 elements for these instruments. This legislation permits the incorporation of all amulets, talismans, and ceremonial regalia. Chi in Imhotep, commemorating Imhotep. The rituals of the Sekhmet Bast cult in contemporary times remain enigmatic. This unequivocally attests to the formidable magic of this goddess, accessible solely to those entirely devoted to her service. Sekhmet Bast performed a complex litany known as the Ritual of Appeasing the Eye, referring to the goddess's burning gaze that could destroy Ra's enemies. The precise quantity of her images, each symbolizing a day in the solar year, was articulated annually in 365 recitations, illustrating her destructive capabilities. Multiple locations have revealed numerous exquisite statues of the goddess, sculpted from black granite, symbolizing her dominion over the four seasons. Such figures have been found in the southern sector of Karnak, within the precinct of Mut, and at the mortuary temple of Amunhotep III on the west bank of Thebes. They conducted the ritual daily to appease the goddess and safeguard the monarch. The recitations also inhibited the Deen spirit's transmission of pestilence into the celestial realm on their ascendant days. On the other hand, people acknowledged and revered the goddess for her therapeutic powers. Her priesthood was renowned across the ancient world for its expertise in surgery, medicine, and exorcism. Her most esteemed Senu was Imhotep. He comes in peace. The Old Kingdom sage, whose accomplishments in architecture and the sciences were only eclipsed by his healing abilities. His reputation as a miracle worker has endured throughout Egyptian history, with temples dedicated to his service. The priesthood of Imhotep advocates for Sekhmet Bast, the deity whose formidable essence remained untainted by the royal lineage. Greco-Roman historians documented a substantial healing center, known as the Asklepi Ion, dedicated to his apotheosis, located in the necropolis of Saqqara, where his tomb remains undiscovered. The contemporary Deir el-Bahri on the western bank of Thebes, the upper terrace of Hatshepsut's mortuary temple, is one of Imhotep's sanctuaries. The eastern pylon of Auset's temple, which precedes the healing sanctuary named after him, is also located at Philae. The Roman temple of Ptah at Karnak features a distinctive dedication to Imhotep and Amunhotep, the son of Hapu, a later deified healer who lived over a millennium afterward. The two doorposts of this temple signify the parallelism of their abilities and divine acknowledgement. They were both magicians and architects, and the Egyptian pantheon compared them in intriguing ways, leading to the belief that they were identical. This ceremony includes the hymn to Imhotep from this location. Confirmation. Assemble a votive offering for Imhotep, comprising a medicine jar, flint knife, linen bandage roll, and hotep tray. Present the god of healing with this offering, which includes incense and water. Present the depiction of Imhotep as a mere scribe in his commonly acknowledged form, who accepts the offerings. Tributes to Imhotep are suitable for individuals seeking healing. Affix the donor's name on or adjacent to the offering and position it on the tray. At the officiant's discretion, it may be returned to the donor or accepted as a donation for the temple. Nen Sokar, Festival of Sokar. The Sokar festival, dedicated to the deity of the Memphite necropolis and a manifestation of Asar in hibernation, commemorates the resurgence of light following the bleakest days of winter. It also recognizes the influence of seasonal transitions on inertia, decay, consolidation, and confinement. We commemorated Sokar immediately before the winter solstice in the month of Choyach. We currently see the constellation Orion, associated with Asar in his victorious form. It is beginning to fade from the night sky, indicating its descent into the shadow realm, a term that, aside from its metaphysical connotation, denotes the region below the horizon in Egyptian astronomy. Ancient Egypt also experienced the receding of inundation waters and the subsequent seeding of the next season's crops. Consequently, there was a strong expectation that the hibernation period would not impede seed implantation and that germination would occur. Just as Asar is entrenched in the earth's innermost layers, its implantation into the soil conjures the forces of creation and procreation. Sokar, the vital energy, represents latency in this phase. The pictures of him at Abydos, Dendera, and Philae show him sleeping, ithyphalic, reacting to the earth's divine energy, and autoerotic, showing his natural creative abilities, or making love with Auset, who is shown as a falcon, producing Heru's future children. During the winter solstice, daylight hours are minimal in the northern hemisphere, and the fields are momentarily devoid of vegetation. This season prompts contemplation and commemoration of those who have transitioned to the western land, contributing to its somberness and solitude. However, it also serves as an opportunity to commemorate those who preceded us and to acknowledge the inseparable bond between the living and the deceased. Our endowment of life allows us to engage in future manifestations of life, as our ancestors will re-emerge in the theater following the completion of their hibernation cycle. A vestige of ancient Egyptian traditions persists in the Western Desert. The relatives of the deceased regularly visit the graves to pour water and scatter grain around their peripheries. Bringing birds to the grave originates from an ancient belief that offering the birds will cause the Ba, represented as a bird, to return to the tomb. The resurrection of the deceased to impact the living is essential, as the living depend on the wisdom and experiences of their ancestors to navigate specific realities. On the other hand, we remind the deceased that their existence impacts the living. Observing. At this time of year, intricate ceremonies occurred in Abydos. They meticulously wrapped and enshrined statues depicting Asar, initiating an alchemical transformation through the recitation of spells and invocations. We stored the items in the Sokar chapel for a year. During the observance, we reenact the procession of Asar that traversed Sais, Buto, Mendes, and Heliopolis. The journey of the body begins in Sais, west. The sustenance of the Ka occurs in Buto, north, and the union of the Ka and Ba transpires in Mendes, east. The procession culminates in its elevation within the celestial realms in Heliopolis, south, representing an imitation of the soul's transformation. We return to the northernmost section of the temple, where we invoke the pole stars, the steadfast force underpinning creation. The action then shifts eastward to the Sokar bed, where we sow seeds and perform a watering ceremony. The arrival of life-sustaining light succeeds this. Historically, sacred images were removed from the temple crypt to the roof chapels, where they were exposed to the sun on their holy days and symbolically invigorated by cosmic forces. We preserve the AA Sokar bed from last year's festival in linen, infuse it with cypress oil, and place it in a coffin. Subsequently, the statue is represented by its interment in the temple's western necropolis. An archaic temple featured a bed resembling the reclining figure of Asar. You can use cereals like corn, barley, or spelt. Utilize water, grains, copal incense, storax oil, cedar, cypress, pine oil, and Sokar bed. The latter could have an oblong shape, akin to a stone or clay coffin. After this observance, a commemorative feast ensues to honor the deceased and anticipate Sokar's resurrection as a germinating seed from the earth for a bountiful harvest of life. The Temple of Seti Dwai at Abydos contains a Sokar chapel, where the king presents offerings to Ptah and Geb, the creators who bestow upon the earth its fundamental essence, the matrix from Ptah and the substance from Geb. You should exhibit statues or images. The inscriptions illustrate the king igniting incense and presenting water and sacred oil libations to Sokar, who reclines on a couch adorned with a lion's head, attended by Auset Nept Het and the 4 elemental deities. The soil symbolizes Sokar's dormant abilities, rendering his image superfluous. Tort is also located at the northern station of the sanctuary, where he functions as the reciter. Her titles encompass Neteru of Parturition and Chieftainess of the Circumpolar Stars. Because she is connected to Set, she makes it easier for the inert substance of Sokar to change, which makes it more powerful and lets the solstice forces participate in the creative process. Her 4 sun constellations are in Ursa Minor, the Little Dipper. Furthermore, lizards and snakes symbolize protective deities, repel malevolent forces, and invoke fecund powers during transformation. As Hem's living representative, the Mer acts as Set's patron and conducts all ritual activities, including presenting the Sokar bed to the sun. The 4 suns, Imset, incense, Daumutef, soil, Kebsunov, oil, and Hapi, water, participate in the rite by supplying the ritual substances. Alongside their role as suppliers, they embalm the deceased Sokar's bed and withdraw. Temple reliefs depict them under the Sokar bed, symbolizing their elemental essence. One individual can also serve the 4 genii. Here, the living god will subsequently embed these germinating seeds in the soil of Sokar with the aid of the grain deity Nepri. The representation of a goddess is discretionary. The ceremony commences with a procession of ritual implements entering the sanctuary. While the Kerheb recites the Hekau of the funerary journey, the tools are presented at each station, progressing from west to north, then east to south. Hen Ek Mat, the exposition of Mat. Religion should foster a constructive lifestyle and a moral framework that advantages adherents and the ecosystem. The pharaoh of ancient Egypt accomplished this through the presentation of Maat, a covenant periodically established with the Neter of divine order. In this ceremony, all the divine powers bestowed upon the royal person were promised to protect and uphold truth and order. This promise was made possible by the offering of the name, which the ancients thought was the most powerful thing a person could have. The temple servant established another covenant with the deities, the Declaration of Innocence, comprising 42 ethical pledges. The Temple of Horus at Edfu features a succinct version of this text inscribed on the inner door jamb of the pronaos. Before conducting daily rituals, priests recite this text, which constitutes the 42nd act of the morning service. During the Heru, Leo season, neophytes may undertake this rite before anointing in the temple. The temple body should periodically announce and reaffirm these ethical guidelines. The 42 goddesses of Maat symbolize various facets of divine conduct that necessitate perfection in this life. To make sure they would be able to reach the higher realms, the wandering soul spoke 42 affirmations to these goddesses in their inner lives. The Declaration of Innocence occurs before the presentation of Maat. Although unattainable, these principles are intended to direct individuals toward an ideal existence in harmony with divine entities. Ancient individuals grappled with adhering to these morals similarly to contemporary individuals, and recitation may illustrate their advantages, albeit temporarily. The application of temple oil to the nostrils signifies the celebrant's vow. The subsequent segment entails hand-presenting the name, inscribed on paper or a small plaque, to the image of Maat, or the altar within the sanctuary. The celebrant receives a white feather as a symbol of the name's inscription in the temple book. Shai en Unut, the hours of the day. The Egyptian tombs illustrated the celestial panorama with deities and their domains presiding over the burial environment. The subterranean realms would host Geb, the deity of the earth, alongside Egypt's gnomes and nature spirits symbolizing fauna and flora. The chamber ceilings illustrated the heavens and stages of divine existence, along with the deities residing in the celestial realm. The area governed by Nut is segmented into linear time, denoted by sacred hours in numerous tombs. The walls of the Osirion at Abydos feature an enigmatic sacred text, the Book of Gates, inscribed on the alabaster sarcophagus of Seti I. Scholars have perplexed its purpose, as ancient times regarded it as the portal to the royal chamber of initiation. The ancient text narrates the soul's voyage through cosmic realms, culminating in a celestial rebirth via Nut, the sky goddess. Every hour, the conscious soul traverses each portal of the solar journey. As the sun god traverses the nocturnal expanse of the Duat, the ethereal realm, he encounters the divine serpent, emblematic of the deities safeguarding him.